Okay, let's welcome on board Pankaj Pandey as well. Pankaj, hi, good morning. The exchange is not coming in for spinning off of the OTC business for Reliance Industries into a separate company for the NCLT purposes. Although procedural, you think market will read this positively because eventually the stake sale is going to strategic investors. Street is already assigning an SOTB valuation in Reliance for OTC business at about 800 rupees per share.
Hi, good morning. Don't have a coverage on Reliance, so specific to this particular stock, I will not be able to comment. But oil and gas, what we are really looking at going forward is that the GRMs have sort of contracted globally also and for Indian players also in the last quarter. But with sort of normalization or with the expectation that the vaccine would be available, I think things have sort of started looking up with crude oil prices inching up and GRMs are also expected to follow suit. So that way oil and gas business looks or is becoming better compared to what it was earlier. And I think your other pieces of business which are already sort of doing well. So from that perspective, I don't think that overall key stock like Reliance is going to be a big drag on the overall markets. So that way, I think structurally, I think things are positive for the stock.
Right. Kunal, we've seen 3 to 4 consecutive sessions of an uptick coming in on Reliance. Do you sense further headroom, or you think part of this news is already covered into the uptick that we've seen and in the price?
Well, so last couple of days we saw some very good comeback for Reliance Industries. That is point number one. But the question remains, Aisha, is that this kind of a short-term buying is not getting converted into delivery-based buying. Now, if you look at the last two set of data points for Reliance Industries, the last 2 days particularly, the delivery volumes, the average delivery volumes for Reliance Industries was, I think, somewhere closer to 44%. But the last 2 days of delivery data point is 28% and 29%. So that itself tells you that even though the stock has moved up higher, it's not resulted into enthusiastic delivery-based buying, which is a concern because if there is no delivery-based buying with very huge proportions, then it could just be a very short-lived kind of a rally. Now the 2000 support for the 2000 resistance for Reliance Industries, the fact that the stock is broken above those levels, I think that could now act as a short-term support. So I think as a short-term trader, you have to probably wait for the stock to try and give you those signals in terms of volumes. If it happens for Reliance Industries, say over the next couple of days and especially today, because of some news flow, then I believe that could be a signal that long players are now starting to take home the stock or take delivery of the stocks. And I think if that happens, then you can see some positional uptrend into Reliance Industries. So as of now, I'll play it with a very short-term kind of a time scale. 2000, which was the resistance earlier, that is now a short-term support, and keeping that support in play, I think traders can build on to long positions over here.
Okay, so a couple of Kunal's views coming in there. All right, let's take a look at some of the other key names that have been standing out. Pankaj, we've been talking a lot about cement, about Ultratech, and there have been a few other news reports also for which the counter is in news. But in terms of opportunity, a good entry point, what would be your view on some of the cement names in particular in Ultratech?
The tier 1 players in the cement largely because the capacity utilization for most of the players was quite robust in the last quarter, and on top of it most of the companies reported one of the highest or best EBITDA per ton whatever we have seen in their lifetime. And in addition to that, the demand is still sort of quite robust from rural and semi-urban regions. And mind you, the capex or the capex cycle has sort of yet not in full swing in urban pockets. So despite that, with the demand being good and prices, we were expecting that might soften in the Q2, but actually the prices declined by less than 1%. So I think all the indicators are pointing towards a stronger demand and stronger prices, and this is why we believe that despite the run-up what we have seen in cement stocks, I think structurally they are poised well in terms of better margins or these sustainability of the margins at current levels, and with the demand sort of revival in the offing. I think we like tier one players like Ultratech, Ramco Cement, which reported one of the highest EBITDA per tons, and then smaller cap players like Sagar Cement.
Okay, fair enough. So that's on a couple of those cement names as well. Tech was making a bit of a comeback yesterday. It was nice to see. Kunal, on the charts then, a couple of the top names when it comes to the IT majors. Let's put TCS aside for a moment. What else is standing out?
So I think the other large cap names are also doing pretty well, and I think now the IT sector is getting back to the the old traditional groove where it's the large cap names which are leading from the front. So yes, even the mid cap stocks like Coforge, as well NIT Tech and Mindtree, they are also showing some positive signals. But then you largely see that the traction is led by those large cap names. So I was looking at the charts for Infosys. I think the stock is very close towards breaking and I would say a fresh 52-week high for itself. I think 1186.87 is the previous high for Infosys, and the stock is just 0.5% away from those kind of levels. And I think the other names as well, like Wipro, also is starting to show some signs of resilience. Tech Mahindra has been very strong. HCL Tech as well has been bouncing off from its short-term moving averages. So I think this is now a classical kind of a rally where you see the large caps taking charge front, and then it's followed by mid-cap names. And I think it could probably happen that if the markets go into a consolidation, or like what the S650 is showing today, if there is some sort of a volatility which comes across, then even the money flow would get back into the IT stocks as well because of their erstwhile defensive natures. So I think in that regards, I think the large cap IT should see more traction. Particularly, I think Infosys and Wipro, these would be the two key stocks which I think I'll be watching out for. Infosys specifically because the stock is now very close to its breaking a fresh 52-week high for itself.
Okay, let's deviate and tell you about some stocks that you should keep on your radar in today's trading session. We'll begin with Maruti. It's part of the top 5 stocks as the car maker is looking to increase their prices of vehicles from January, and this is largely to offset the adverse impact of the rising input costs. Remember, over the last 1 year, the company's vehicles have been impacted, the costs have been impacted adversely due to the high input costs. So this is going to be across various ranges, different price increases. Meantime, keep an eye out on IRCTC. The government is planning to sell about 20% stake in the company via an OFS. It opens for subscription today. The floor price is fixed at 1367 rupees per share. TCS, India's largest IT services firm, has said that the 16,000 crore rupee buyback program is going to commence on the 18th of December and is going to close on the 1st of January. So watch out for that candidate. M&M, another auto stock. Well, the auto major has increased its stake in Finland-based ARM to 79.13%, and with the acquisition of additional 1,050 shares for a price of 31.15 crore rupees. And Goldman Sachs has SBI on its radar. They maintained a buy rating with a target price of 367, saying that they hosted the chairman in their CIO tour and that the asset quality stays the same at 2.5% of new NPL and restructured loans, and recovery momentum is gathering pace. In fact, let's find out further what exactly the report indicates and what exactly are some of the parameters that Goldman Sachs has highlighted on SBI. Varun standing by with a detailed insight. Varun?
Well, that's right. SBI management interacted with Goldman Sachs at the CIO summit, and the following are the key takeaways. Number one, that the asset quality is playing out as per guidance. In fact, it's positively surprising a little bit. Number two, that the recovery story is very much intact and they're seeing very good traction with their retail and SME credit, and that gives them confidence that the momentum will continue. Number three, they're committed to improve their ROA. They had set a 1% target for return on assets by FY23, and they're fairly confident that they're going to be able to get there. Number 4, no capital raise required for SBI right now. Capital adequacy is more than sufficient. There'll be no equity raises. Of course, your regular debt and bond issues might continue as usual. Finally, digital acquisition of customers, account openings and dispersals will be a focus area via YONO. So according to Goldman Sachs, at 0.4x price to book value FY22, SBI represents compelling risk reward. They've drawn up basically an average case of 31% upside from here, a bull case of 51% upside from here. What they particularly like and stressed upon was the asset quality. They believe even if 2% of loans go bad this year, they see that normalizing to around 1.7, 1.8% next year, and they believe that SBI has taken 71 billion rupees of provision, so 7,100 crores, and with PCR of around 60%, that's more than sufficient to take care of any stress that may creep up in the book. So second broker now after CLSA expressing their bullish positive view on SBI. Let's see how the stock reacts in trade today.
Pankaj, for the moment, which is a PSU stock which is still looking cheap and attractive? Because the comeback in PSU stocks from October to now has been nothing short of unreal.
Right, Nikunj. PSU stocks are quite cheap, but I think the last we were liking SBI for quite some time. But I think post Yes Bank, we have turned a bit cautious on the stock as well. So, according to us, the entire PSU as a lot is more of a sort of a trading buy rather than sort of a structural buy, because banking is largely about the ability to raise money at lowest or at high multiples. And which is where private sector banks do the best. And then compared to the overall industry-wide restructuring of 5 to 6%, which is what is anticipated, I think private sector banks are going to do it or are going to witness a restructuring of half or even lower than that compared to PSU banks. So challenges for PSU banks in terms of capital and others will continue to sort of remain. So besides trading by, I think most of the stocks are trading below book value. I think SBI was the only stock which was trading above book value for some period of time. And that also is now sort of below book value going forward. So from that perspective, I think PSU at best is a trading buy. I think tier 1 private sector banks from a portfolio perspective look far more better and attractive.
Fair point. Naresh, how is SBI looking? Do you think in the short term SBI is capable of going to 300?
As of now, the momentum is really strong. So if the market momentum continues, we can see it back to 300, and that is the pre-COVID prices. And overall, the strength and the volumes have been decent. So I would say on the downside maybe 250, 260, but on the upside, yes, 300, 320 is possible.
Naresh, a very interesting sell call this morning on Bajaj Finance. Now that's like saying that, oh, I'm going completely against the momentum.
Absolutely. So this is a preemptive short, because what we've seen is yesterday was the first day where we've not seen momentum in the broader indices. So the Nifty was up 130 points. We did not see a new high compared to the previous day on the Nifty Mid Cap 100, the Nifty Small Cap 100, or the Nifty 50 equal weight. And we are seeing a bout of resistance around a lot of previous highs. So for example, Bajaj Finance, the previous high in 2018-19, pre-COVID was a major high was 49.20, 49.30. We tried to go about that for the last 2 weeks, and we've not been able to, irrespective of the flow continuing in the last 2 weeks. So taking a preemptive shot that if it starts sustaining below this 49.20 mark, we are looking towards at least a dip to 46.40, 4700, which is the low in the last 2 weeks. But as of now, the price action is it is a preemptive trade. Trading below 4800 will be much more convincing, and below 4600 is where so it's a small trade as of now, but below 4600, we would take it as a major correction going forward.
Sure. Some of the other names which have been in focus, and Kunal, we were talking about this yesterday, a bit of a reversal and step back, if you will, for the entire PSU banking pack. The private banking names came to the fore. Now, is this dip in PSU banks going to sustain, and are we going to completely undo the rally that we've seen for the last fortnight or so? or do you think yesterday was just a one-off and they will again get back to winning ways?
So I think the data, over here probably shows a lot of, I would say, indications, Aisha, because, day before yesterday, there was, one very clear trend which was there that Canara Bank, for example, from the PSU banking pack had seen, a bigger unwinding of positions day before yesterday when the stock closed at, I think, 135 or 136 plus, kind of levels. Now, yesterday you saw the stock opening up higher, but it could not sustain the gap up in the first 15 minutes itself. You saw the stock going into selling pressure, and that trickled down to the other PSU banking names as well. So one thing is very certain that the speculative build-up which was there into the PSU banking name, that is getting unwounded. Now we need to see to what extent the unwinding happens for these speculative build-up for on the futures side for the PSU banking names. If it's just a short-term unwinding, for example, if you see a 10% unwinding or a 15% unwinding of positions, then this could be just a routine profit booking for the PSU banking lot. But if the unwinding shapes up into a much more bigger scale, then you are expecting that there could be at least a 40 to 50% reversal for these stocks from the gains which they have done from the November start. So I think the next couple of days could be very, very crucial, because generally and typically we've seen that whenever the markets go into even some sort of a consolidation or a downward drift, you expect the PSU banking pack to be the first amongst the first sectors which goes through some selling pressure. So I think today and the next couple of days, especially tomorrow, could be very crucial in that regard. So I would expect that there should be some marginal selling pressure, but I think if the build-up is high on the OI or the open interest, then I believe that the chances of a more steeper correction into these stocks will not be ruled out.
Sure. Pankaj, we were just looking at the good news this morning, and it seems that the city of Mumbai in the month of November has seen property registrations at an 8-year high. This is an uptick of about 23% from the month of October. Fresh enquiries, it seems, are getting converted into sales. How is it that you're going to play this uptick in the residential property market, or for that matter, commercial as well? Is it going to be via the region-specific real estate developers, or is it going to be via ancillaries, the home improvement space, that is?
Real estate largely has been sort of a local kind of industry, and we've seen pockets, say for example, Bangalore doing quite well compared to rest of the India in terms of overall retail sales. And which is where I think this is more sort of a stock specific sector what one needs to look at. So we like Brigade, for example, from a Bangalore perspective. I think from a Mumbai perspective, we like something like Oberoi Realty, which again is a good play on both residential as well as they're looking to sort of up the other play also going forward. So from that perspective, I think real estate structurally looks better, but then again, it is largely with the tier 1 players is what one can look at. I think we see a lot of sort of challenges for the unorganized or smaller players in the segment, and this is where the industry probably, even if it is not expected to grow on a sustained basis, the organized players will sort of deliver far more better growth. Something what we are sort of seeing in the jewelry kind of segment, where Titan is sort of still growing despite the fact that the industry has still sort of degrown for quite some period of time. So Oberoi Realty, Sunteck Realty in Mumbai region are looking attractive. Besides that, we like Brigade, and I think we can also look at Phoenix, which is again a sort of a good play on both retail as well as the overall consumption spend, which is what typically this model sort of captures. So I think a combination of both retail, residential, and the other segment looks quite attractive.
Okay, fair enough. So those are a couple of the others that we're looking at. Real estate has definitely been front and center, has been on everyone's list in terms of tracking the recovery there. And so that's definitely been one that we've been focusing on. What about within the auto pack, Pankaj? What's looking good to you there?
We like in tier 1 players, we like M&M to a great extent, largely because one, the tractor as a segment within the overall auto pack is expected to deliver double-digit growth, look sustainable till the time government keeps on spending, especially on the rural side. I think, and also what we like about M&M is that now they are sort of returning to capital efficiency model, and we've seen that historically whenever their ROEs have sort of gone into double digits, the stock has sort of delivered one of the best returns. So M&M is within large caps look particularly attractive to us. I think in the other pockets, we like something like, say, for example, Balkrishna Industries, which again has been sort of delivering a fairly good set of, robust set of numbers with very efficient margins. So it's more sort of an outsourcing play, looks pretty attractive. So I think auto in general has done well, but I think these are the names which is still like from a portfolio perspective and structural perspective also.
Okay, let's find out some mid-cap trading strategies too. The pre-open rates this morning are looking a little bit skeptical, but nonetheless holding out at 13,550 for the index. Let's find out what Kunal and Naresh are betting on within the broader universe. And Kunal, what's on your radar?
Well, it's interesting, chart. It's buy on Cummins India now. After quite some time, the stock has managed to sprung up and show a swing breakout on the short-term chart. So we saw the stock, in the last 3 to 4 days prior to yesterday, going through a consolidation. And I think yesterday we saw very good up move for the stock price. Classical sign of a swing breakout where the prices managed to break past the previous swing high, and the volumes were also pretty much high as compared to the last 3 or 4 days prior consolidation. So I think in this regards, Cummins India could be a stock which can continue to ride on high momentum, especially after yesterday's price uptake. Would suggest a buy with 615 as a potential target, and stoppers could be kept at 580.
Okay, Naresh, what's the stock that's catching your eye?
So that's a buy on IDFC First Bank. The stock made a very sharp move a few days back, and a single day move where it went from 34 to 38 levels. So that was a resistance for some time. And since the last 2-3 weeks, we've made a flat pattern wherein we continue to make same tops around 38. So the flat pattern is a size of closer to 3 to 5 points. Yesterday, we've been a good close about the 38 mark and close around 38.50, 38.80 levels. So looking at it as a momentum trade with a target price of 42 and a stop loss we place at 37.50.
Okay, that's the view coming in. Some of the top mid-cap strategies to watch out for in trade. Well, let's also get a move on then and hear it out from Ashwini Agarwal speaking about PSUs, talking about his rationale for investment.
The government is pushing the PSUs to spend as much as they can, but the government itself doesn't really have much money to spend. The private sector is spending in a few areas, pharmaceuticals, for example, companies are investing money, but in large swaths of the private sector, we are not seeing signs of significant capex pickup.
All right, I also want to just look at a PI Industries. Let's get a check on that one because it's also overtaken a UPL, for instance, on market cap. Let's get your view on that one, Naresh, on the charts.
So technically, this has been a slow and steady mover. Again, a large company where the flows have been strong, a very well-owned stock on the mutual funds on the FII side. But technically, in the near term, we've seen a pause around 2,500 odd levels. So we made that top a few, say closer to the start of end of November. We've not been able to cross that in the last 3 weeks. So, and in the interim, we dipped to 2150. So in this range, this is the first time we are making a lower top. So maybe we are getting into a pause out here between 2150 to 2500 for some time. So looks like a pause just like it has done before all the time. But the longer term trend is still up. It's only when we close below 2150, we take it as a trend change.
Okay, let's also go across to Mubina. She's taking a look at what Credit Suisse's latest report is saying about Vedanta. Mubina?
Well, Credit Suisse is not exactly, as positive on Vedanta as they were just a couple of months ago. That's post, the entire delisting. But they believe that the risk-reward ratio now is no longer that favorable. They have downgraded the stock to neutral. They've kept their target price at 160 rupees, a bit of a hike compared to 140 rupees because of the fact that, we are staring at higher commodity prices. The forecast for commodity prices as well, are very upbeat. They've lifted their FY23 EPS estimates. But the key concern for Credit Suisse on Vedanta is Vedanta Resources, the liquidity stress on the parents front, and they believe that the steps that Vedanta Resources may take, to ease the liquidity stress and to ease that is going to be crucial to watch for. They have said that Vedanta Resources is looking to raise funds, and I think today's report mentions that they have managed to raise funds, but it's been at a very high yield of almost 13 to 14% as per agencies, and they do again flag off the fact that for Vedanta Limited, aluminium, zinc, all of these are strong businesses because of the whole recovery in commodity prices. So on the fundamentals, the business looks great for Vedanta Limited, but the steps that Vedanta Resources may take now to ease liquidity stress could be a key overhang for the stock of Vedanta Limited as well.
Okay, and let's also go across to Pankaj. Pankaj is taking a look at what CLSA is saying on DLF's growth path.
We've already got a couple of upgrades coming in DLF in the last few weeks, and CLSA has now also upgraded their target price. Their earlier target price was 210. The current market price yesterday was 212. So basically it's achieved that target price, and they have gone ahead and upgraded the target price further to about 255. They maintain their buy. They believe that free cash flow generation at the company will be strong. New launches is something which will drive the growth, and that will enable them to go ahead and reduce their debt. That is the main call that they are taking in terms of DLF. 255 is the target price, which means another 20-25% is the sort of upside that they expect. This is a report coming in because target price got achieved. Things are looking great on the growth trajectory for DLF, led by new launches, and that is something which they are highlighting. All free cash flow generation, according to them, should go to reduce the debt, and that will act as one of the key triggers in re-rating of DLF.
Maruti is considering a price hike. Now, folks, a price hike by Maruti is not because they see demand. A price hike by Maruti is because steel prices have gone higher, because aluminum prices have gone higher, glass prices have gone higher, rubber prices have gone higher. How should one read into this news, Pankaj Pandey? Maruti is considering a price hike.
Was expected, Nikunj, given the fact that, like you mentioned, a lot of input prices have gone up and have gone up at a pretty fast clip. So price hike was definitely expected. I think on the demand side, I think rural is one segment where the buoyancy in two-wheelers and even tractors is remaining intact. I think on the CV side, the medium and heavy commercial vehicle segment, especially the trucks, are doing fine, and if they follow typically 2-year cycle, and our sense is that this cycle is sort of on a revival mode. I think the only challenge is the sort of buses segment, which is a sort of urban product where the schools are yet not opened, or the urban activity is sort of still not normalized. So from that perspective, I think now coming to Maruti perspective, I think given the pressures on the margin which we had seen in the last quarter, I think that was one of the expected steps. But I think that for Maruti, the biggest challenge is that they are not able to really sort of grow their product above 10 lakh kind of a range. And what is expected is that with this kind of a COVID scenario, people have been sort of downgrading and preferring lower price products, which is good for Maruti in terms of volume, but not good from a margin perspective. Structurally, we have been negative on Maruti. We still sort of maintain a sell on Maruti. So I don't think with this price hike, anything structurally changes for Maruti. We'll continue to maintain largely a sell on it.
Why is Maruti a sell? I mean, the logic which I could come back with is they have 50% market share. They are doing all the right things. And if the rural economy picks up, then Maruti would be a disproportionate beneficiary because of low interest rates.
Right, Nikunj. So from that perspective, yes, but I think what we also need to understand is that Maruti is not sort of spending enough for future transition from ICE engines to EVs. And mind you, with any company which has got a 50% market share cannot be actually bought because CCI engine will not allow that kind of a thing to happen. Which means that they are completely dependent on Toyota for technology. And in that bargain for technology, our sense is that probably they'll have to sort of part ways with some of their leading models, which is what we are seeing in terms of the kind of arrangement what we have seen. So from that perspective, it is very much possible that the volume growth may not sort of pan out in Maruti, but probably might pan out more in Toyota because obviously they have an upper hand in terms of technology. And mind you, Maruti is not sort of investing enough to sort of bargain it higher also from Toyota, which again is a sort of a challenge. So which is why, despite the fact that four-wheeler as an industry looks particularly attractive, I think we are sort of structurally not able to sort of see a very clear visibility path for Maruti. And which is why we've been sort of maintaining a sell on it for quite some time.
Okay, Pankaj, great to have you on the show. Thanks as always for joining in with your views. Let's also tell you what else is happening across the nation. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be laying down the foundation stone of the new Parliament building. He will be taking part in the Bhumi Pujan ceremony at 1 p.m. That will be attended by around 200 guests, including Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi as well. Also, protesting farmers have unanimously rejected the centre's written offer of amendments in farm laws and announced a series of plans to escalate their protest, terming the draft proposal as vague. The farmers plan to hold nationwide protests on December 14. And in a bid to curb the heinous crimes against women and children in Maharashtra, the state cabinet has approved a draft bill that has provisions for stern punishment, including death penalty, life sentence, and hefty fines for the perpetrators. The draft bill, once passed by the state legislature, will be called the Shakti Act. Okay, both the SGX Nifty and the pre-open rates are indicating a mildly quiet start. In fact, the pre-open rates are a little softish, but that's okay. We've managed to already cross past the peak of 13,550 in trade yesterday. I guess in the near term, Nikunj, the question really is, do you profit take just yet, or do you stay put and ride the rally?
Aisha, like I said in the morning, look, in this kind of a market, you frankly have two options. One, you can be mentally prepared that, look, a 10, 15, 20% cut in individual stocks could come anytime. It could come. I don't know. But in any market, when you have seen such a large trailblazing move, a correction cannot be ruled out. So if you have the appetite to feel the heat of a 10-15% correction or the 15-20% correction and then sit calmly and then have a 3-year view, then this market is a great market for you. If you don't, then it's time to raise cash. If you are raising cash and if markets they do not correct, then you obviously lose on the upside. The point I'm trying to say, bring out Aisha here, is that depending on what your risk appetite is, the decision making will happen. Just like one shoe does not fit all, there is no standard advice in this kind of a market. Individual stocks will continue to do well because the polarized nature of the market is changing. You may have quiet days for the Nifty, but you may have individual stocks doing very well. I think we are staring at that kind of a market. In the run up to the year end, looking at the flows, looks like we could be in for a last hurrah. That's how typically markets move based on trends and based on my experience, that if they remain strong in the initial part of December, you normally get a strong close towards the December because at the end of the day, year-end bonuses, other mark-to-mark gains are also a function of year-end close. So it may really pan out. But frankly, right now it's a judgment call, which is to be a very individual kind of a call based on risk, appetite and volatility, what you can digest. If you cannot face the heat, then you should not be in the kitchen. I guess we are in that kind of a market that you need to be prepared for volatility. Alright, the first rates will just start kicking in, and the first rates are, it's a flat start for Reliance. Even the news is out, I expected Reliance to actually outperform because of the news, but sometimes it's buy on news and sell on rumors. Maruti a price hike, but that price hike has largely happened because of jump in input prices, just steel, rubber, aluminum. It's not a great start for banks, it's not a great start for IT, it's not a great start, let me put it this way. The market breadth is even Steven, 721 advances, 424 declines, so this is a type of weak market breadth which we have seen in a long time. I want to pick up some of the big gainers from yesterday, and the big gainer from the F&O space yesterday, hands down, was UPL, United Phosphorus. The beaten down, the comeback in some of the laggards or underperformers, is that extending itself? There you go. Hello. UPL has taken a knock of 27 rupees. Am I missing on any kind of a news flow? Let me just try and figure out. 29 rupees down now for UPL. It has come cracking down to 463 rupees. ITC is at 205. Divi's is looking strong. Media is off to a great start. But UPL, Tata Steel, the correction has kicked in some of the high beta names, looks like.
About 0.5% lower, the breadth as well is in the negative as we speak right now. About 100 stocks within the F&O universe standing to the declines. Let's check in on what Maruti is up to. They're looking to raise prices across models come the month of January 2021. IRCTC as well, wherein the OFS floor price has been set at 1,367 rupees per share. That's also going to be in focus. And then TCS, wherein the buyback offer to open on December 18th closes on Jan 1st. So let's look out for what TCS as well does. M&M has also raised the stake in its Finland-based subsidiary, so look out for this stock too. And then Goldman, which maintains a buy on SBI, says recovery is gathering pace, as has been the stock price of late. So look out for what SBI as well does in trade. Oro Pharma holding out. Cummins is seeing traction for a second consecutive day. Sun Pharma, Jubilant Foods also seeing some tempered moves. But besides that, you don't have any big winners this morning, and the cuts barring UPL are not as large within the Nifty names. You got an Ultratech Cement which is down 1.6%, and yes, Infosys is down 2% as we speak. Nikunj?
Well, Sanjay Dutt joined us now. Let's take the conversation forward. Sanjay, good morning. Thank you for joining us. We're going through a moment of extraordinary gains. We've never seen this kind of a bunched up return in markets in last 25 years. Benchmark indices from the October low are up more than 10%, and the market breadth is looking near perfect. Is this the beginning of good days ahead, or we are in the last lap now before we take a longish pause?